Okay, let's unpack this. There's definitely a lot of buzz lately around India really stepping up, not just providing healthcare, but becoming a major global hub.
Mm-hmm.
You've probably heard about the Heal in India program. It's
Yeah.
been getting quite a bit of attention.
It absolutely has. And looking through the material you shared, it's pretty clear this isn't just a catchy slogan. It feels like a real strategic push.
Absolutely. So this deep dive is all about medical tourism in India. Like,
Yeah.
what actually is it? Why is it growing so much?
And where is it heading? That's the big question.
Exactly. We're going to dive into the articles and notes you send over, pull out the key insights, especially around these newer initiatives and trends.
Right. The goal here is to cut through the noise, get to the core info,
Yeah.
and give you a clear sense of why India is becoming such a big deal in healthcare travel.
Yeah, I was looking through some of the points earlier, and the scale of ambition here is,
Yeah.
well, it's pretty striking.
And I'm here to help connect those dots. Medical tourism itself, people crossing borders for health, it's already huge globally.
Mm-hmm.
So understanding India's role, based specifically on the details you've gathered for us, really helps frame that bigger picture.
Okay, so let's jump right into this recent push. The Heal in India initiative.
Mm.
The material calls it a pretty ambitious central government plan.
It definitely is. Basically, it seems to have two main goals. Make India a world leader in healthcare services and really actively promote the country for medical travel.
And a big part of that is this digital portal they mentioned, the medical value travel portal.
That's right. The material highlights this as basically a one-stop shop for foreigners.
Oh, yeah.
It's meant to give them all the info they need on services, hospitals, aiming for transparency, and just making it easier to navigate.
Transparency, yeah. That feels crucial for anyone traveling for medical care.
Totally. And they seem to be grounding it in a philosophy, too.
Yeah, the material mentioned Atithi Devo Bhava.
Right, which means guest is God. So it emphasizes that service angle, treating international patients like, well, welcome guests, not just customers.
Okay, that's the philosophy. What about the practical stuff? The material highlights standardizing prices. That sounds important.
Oh, absolutely. Standardizing costs across different hospitals for similar treatments is a direct shot at preventing overcharging.
Right.
It's about creating trust, making pricing predictable. That's a huge deal for patients comparing options internationally.
And also setting up a proper system for complaints, a grievance mechanism. The material said that was limited before.
Correct. Having a formal, certified way to handle issues adds another layer of confidence for patients. So yeah, both the pricing thing and this grievance system seem designed to make India feel more reliable and accessible.
So that's the new initiative.
Yeah.
But what about the factors that already made India popular? The material points to some underlying drivers, right?
Yeah, definitely. And probably the biggest one, the one that always comes up, is cost.
Mm-hmm.
The material is clear. Treatment in India is just way cheaper than, say, the US or Europe. We're talking major procedures, sometimes at a fraction of the price. That alone pulls in a lot of people.
Cost is huge, yeah. But people won't compromise on quality, especially for health. What about the doctors and hospitals themselves?
That's the other key piece. The material emphasizes lots of highly trained doctors, many actually educated or trained overseas, like in the West.
Okay.
The standard of medical training in India is also described as very high. Plus, many places have top-notch diagnostic gear. So it's a combination.
And India seems to have carved out niches in specific complex areas.
It does. The sources mention real progress in things like cancer treatment, organ transplants, complex surgeries, even plastic surgery. These are areas where patients often look for global centers of excellence.
Right. Makes sense.
And India is offering that more and more.
What about just getting there? The logistics?
Good point. The material notes that easier medical visa rules helped. And also removing some government quotas on private hospitals, basically cutting down on the red tape that might put people off.
And then there's India's traditional side, the wellness aspect.
Absolutely, you can't ignore that. India is known globally for yoga. Ayurveda, the material, calls it the birthplace of Ayurveda and spiritual learning.
Mm-hmm.
That positions it as more than just a place for surgery. It's a whole health and wellness destination. Millions go just for that, for alternative treatments or wellness programs.
Okay, and one last practical thing, communication. Always a potential hurdle when you travel.
Crucial point the material makes here. Fluent English is apparently widely spoken.
Really, in both private and government hospitals.
That's what it says, doctors, nurses, staff. That breaks down a massive barrier, makes the whole experience way less stressful for international patients.
Okay, so you've got cost, quality, specialized care, easier travel, Traditional wellness and ease of communication. That's quite a package.
It really is, and it adds up.
So given all that, how big is this market? The material had some numbers.
It did. Currently, it mentions $1 billion US, but here's the kicker.
Yeah.
It's expected to double by 2026.
Double. Wow, that's incredibly fast growth.
Yeah.
That suggests more than just steady progress, right? That sounds like a real potential shift in global healthcare.
Exactly. That kind of jump implies India could become a major force much quicker than maybe people expected.
Well, growth like that needs coordination. Is it just hospitals doing their own thing?
No, the material stresses it's a collaborative effort. You've got the private hospitals working with the health ministry, the tourism ministry, even the AYUSH ministry.
That's the traditional medicine one?
Right. Ayurveda, yoga, etc. And also civil aviation, other departments. It looks like a joined-up national strategy.
And they're actually creating a roadmap.
Yeah, working on a plan to better link Indian facilities with patients abroad and also to boost R&D in the sector.
Interesting. So where are most patients coming from right now, according to the sources?
The material is pretty specific. About 88% are from just 4 countries: Bangladesh, Iraq, Maldives, and Afghanistan.
Wow, 88% from just 4. And Bangladesh is the biggest chunk of that.
By far. Over half, 54% of all medical tourists.
Huh.
And the expectation, based on the material, is that these numbers will climb even higher with all this government and private sector push.
Okay, let's shift to the future then. What does the material see as the really cutting-edge stuff, the frontiers defining where this goes next?
This is where it gets really fascinating. The material breaks it down into 4 key areas: Ayurveda, robotic surgery, these things called surgical camps, and startups.
Okay, Ayurveda first. We touched on it, but dive deeper.
So the material presents it as India's ancient system of natural holistic remedies. It notes it's gaining more acceptance globally, maybe even more so after COVID got people thinking more about health. And the AYUS ministry is actively trying to standardize it and get it recognized worldwide. The material says it's effective for things like kidney problems, infertility, even diabetes, and points out there are like 300 million people globally with diabetes alone. Huge potential market.
And it's not just for treating illness, right? It's wellness too.
Big time. Huge global demand for Ayurvedic wellness, weight loss, detox, stress relief. The material actually quotes some potential figures.
Oh, yeah.
Like potentially serving 10 million people a year, becoming a $15 billion a year business, and boosting Indian culture globally at the same time.
15 billion. Wow. Okay, so from ancient traditions to the opposite end, robotic surgery.
Right. It's apparently becoming quite established in India and is a draw for medical tourists. Benefits like faster recovery, less scarring, you know the drill.
Yeah.
But the really interesting angle the material brings up is the link to 5G.
5G. How does that connect?
Well, the idea is that 5G could enable remote robotic surgery.
Seriously, like a surgeon in India operating on someone elsewhere.
Potentially guiding it or maybe even performing parts of it, reaching remote areas in India or maybe even other countries. The material mentions IIT Kanpur is actually building a hospital specifically to explore this tech.
Okay, that is futuristic. Wild. What about these surgical camps? That sounds different.
It really is. It's not just patients coming to India. This is about Indian surgeons going out.
Ah, okay.
Traveling to nearby countries to hold surgical camps. The material gives an example of an Indian team doing the first ever liver transplant in Sudan.
Wow.
And apparently they're doing hundreds of smaller surgeries every month in places like Iraq, Uzbekistan, Pakistan.
So exporting the expertise directly on the ground.
Exactly. And the material says this is actually grabbing market share, especially for those smaller procedures in neighboring countries. It's a really interesting mobile approach.
Okay, Ayurveda, robotics, camps, and the fourth was startups. How do you fit in?
The material paints them as absolutely vital. They're the ones bridging the information gap.
How so?
Basically acting as a one-stop shop. They gather and organize all this complex info clinic details, hospital options, surgeon profiles, equipment availability, even the tourism side like flights and hotels.
And they use tech to do that.
Yeah, things like NLP, natural language processing, to understand what patients are asking for, chatbots for initial contact, AI to match patients with the right services.
Got it.
They handle everything from online consults and booking appointments to visas, hotels, ground support when the patient arrives. The material suggests these startups, by making things easier and innovating, are attracting investment and really helping cement India's place in the market.
Makes sense. You need that layer to make it accessible, but it can't all be smooth sailing, right? Such rapid growth must come with challenges.
Oh, for sure. And the material is upfront about the obstacles.
Like what?
Well, the big one, unsurprisingly, was COVID-19.
Right. How bad was the impact?
Pretty significant, according to the sources. Lockdowns, visa problems. It led to a big drop in medical tourists. The material cites almost a 33% decrease in 2020-21.
A third. That's huge. Is there a specific example?
Yeah, they give data from Fortis Hospital. They apparently had 45,000 foreign patients in 2019.
Okay.
That dropped to just 14,000 in 2020.
Huh.
It recovered a bit to 17,000 by late 2022, but the material notes it still wasn't back to pre-pandemic levels then. Shows the hit it took.
And did visa issues linger even after the main lockdowns? Plus geopolitical stuff?
Yeah, the material mentions ongoing visa difficulties affecting patterns, and it specifically points to, for example, fewer patients from Afghanistan after the Taliban takeover.
Ah, right.
But interestingly, it also mentions an increase from Bangladesh around the same time, so shifts happening.
So despite those major setbacks, what's the overall feeling now based on the material? Still positive?
Yes, despite the challenges, the underlying trend noted is actually positive. There's apparently been an increase in foreign patients coming for really critical things: cancer, major orthopedic surgeries, organ transplants.
So the high-stakes stuff kept growing.
Seems so, and the general expectation mentioned is still for overall growth to continue.
Okay, so looking forward, what's the path ahead according to the material? What are they focusing on?
Well, it circles back to India's core strengths.
Yeah.
That deep health expertise and the large domestic market, which helps sustain the whole infrastructure.
Right.
And it emphasizes ongoing government collaboration with hospitals and stakeholders to keep making India more attractive for medical travel.
Is there any specific body leading that charge?
Yes, the Services Export Promotion Council, SEPC, it's highlighted as key.
Okay.
Their job is basically to boost India's service exports globally, especially important post-COVID. And healthcare medical tourism is a major focus for them.
And they're mapping out specific areas.
Exactly. The SEPC is developing plans to promote India not just for complex care, but also for wellness, pharma sourcing, cosmetic surgery, IVF, fertility treatments, broadening the scope.
So the economic impact goes beyond just the hospitals then?
Oh, yeah. The material expects this push to boost related industries too: general tourism, hospitality, the whole ecosystem.
Are we seeing results from these newer approaches yet? Anything concrete?
Well, there's a fascinating detail about a company called Global Care. Apparently, they're helping over 500 patients a month access Indian healthcare without even having a physical office in places like the UAE or Turkey. And that number's growing.
Wow, so leveraging digital and remote connections effectively.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
And the material also mentions hospitals themselves are stepping up coordination.
Like how?
Things like arranging language support, sorting out travel, even customizing food options for foreign patients based on their needs and culture. That detailed attention to the patient experience is crucial.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. Based on the material you provided, we've covered a lot. The big heal in India, push for trust and transparency.
Right. The core drivers like cost and expertise.
The really exciting frontiers, ancient Ayurveda going global, futuristic robotic surgery, those surgical camps, the vital role of startups.
And also acknowledging the real challenges like COVID's impact and the geopolitical shifts they're navigating.
So hopefully we've distilled that down for you, giving you a quick but solid grasp of this major trend and India's strategy.
Exactly. Taking the source info and trying to give you the essential picture.
You know, what really strikes me from all this is that blend. It's quite unique. You have this ancient traditional system, Ayurveda, being actively marketed as a multi-billion-dollar global opportunity.
Right alongside cutting-edge tech like 5G-enabled remote surgery and AI-driven platforms.
It raises a really interesting question for the future, doesn't it?
Yeah.
As India pushes forward, can it successfully balance both? Promoting ancient healing and leading in futuristic medtech to truly shape global healthcare travel? Or will the focus inevitably skew more one way than the other?
That's a great point. How they navigate that tension between tradition and hypermodernity, that could really define their success in this space long term. Something to definitely keep an eye on.